Kawaki just did the unthinkable. Ishiki's full power, that's been unlocked. The Karma Seal, obviously that boy's mastered it. His eye is no longer just a weapon, but instead, it is truthfully a legend reborn. And in this altered timeline, thanks to Boruto, Kawaki has one target in mind, Jura, the terrifying Shinju monster, the 10 tails incarnated with Ishiki Otsutsuki's essence and Shibai cells via code, as well as Code's chakra. That monster who even Boruto couldn't beat because Boruto got hit with a 3-piece combo, no biscuits. But here's a question that fans should be asking. Can Kawaki right now truly defeat Jura alone? Or will he only survive long enough to force a tactical retreat? Let's jump into Kawaki's new power levels, the dangers that Jura represents, and how a centuries-old Japanese folklore about the one-inch samurai could be hiding the key to this massive battle's payoff, and it is a big payoff if Kawaki's able to make Jura retreat. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, touches on what realistic expectations are for a Kawaki versus Jura battle. I want to get ahead of the leaks that will be coming in the next few days because the chapter is out earlier this month. I also want to touch on why Boruto likely needed, and I also want to touch on why Boruto's likely needed to ultimately bring down Jura later on in the future, and how there's a hidden parallel to the story that inspired the powers that Kawaki inherited via the Kokugan Eye. Hopefully that explanation works out for the TLDW crowd from Twitter, Reddit, and the casuals scrolling through YouTube who see the thumbnail and begin foaming at the mouth and jumping to conclusions. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to sub to my Anime Explained channel because we got new content dropping for this upcoming anime season that the editor is hard at work on for that channel, as well as more content from my Everything One Piece Explained channel. Both will be linked in the description box for your convenience, and they're also on the homepage of the Naruto Explained YouTube channel too. So jumping right into it, we have to start with Kawaki's brand new power level and this post-timeline change. So why is Kawaki so powerful in the first place? So in the original timeline, he was meant to eventually get to the level of power he has now, minus any upgrades that Amado did to him. But thanks to Boruto's timeline breaking decision to tell him to remove his limiters early, Kawaki has tapped into Ishiki's full arsenal far sooner than anyone, even Kashin Koji, could have expected. And because Kawaki added extra onto it, because as Koji warned Boruto, when people know the future, they tend to make changes that have them act in ways they wouldn't have necessarily done before. He specifically said, use scientific methods and otherwise to make me even stronger, which means that he's gone beyond just getting Ishiki's full attack power. At this point, it's not even a debate. Kawaki is strong. He has full access to Karma's mastery. He has zero risk of being overtaken. He has the Kokugan, Ishiki's dojutsu ability that lets him shrink himself in objects to 1 inch in size. He has the Daikokuden, a personal dimension where he can instantly summon chakra cubes, giant, heavy, chakra disrupting blocks that are brutal in battle. He can also summon chakra rods from there. Those are instantaneously materialized. They are chakra weapons that are aimed precisely to pierce or to pin down the enemy. What separates Kawaki from Boruto right now is basically complete control. While Boruto struggles to even use Karma because of the risk of Momoshiki taking over, by Boruto's own words, Kawaki is playing chess right now with Ishiki's full toolkit. He has all options available to him. Now, let's make this clear. That does not mean that Jura is checkmated. That ain't happening yet. Which brings me to the next point, why Jura is still too powerful. So, I think after Jura getting a chakra rod shoved through his eye, Boruto cutting off his leg, I think it's time for people to remember that Jura is that dude. He isn't just some Shinju clone. He is the perfect storm of power, mastery, mystery, and a growing intellect. He outclasses all the other 10-tail spawns that we've seen from Hidari and Matsuri, Mamushi, Ryu. He's shown mind-bending raw strength based on the few moments that we've seen him fight. He's never used his full power, and most importantly has a tactical intelligence. He's able to adapt in mid-battle, analyze his opponents like a seasoned predator. This is on top of, again, him having the Shibai cells that came from Code, as well as Code's chakra, Code being someone who's stronger than Jigen, and because Code has Ishiki's Karma Seal, as Boruto said, that Karma Seal still contains Otsutsuki essence. It just can't be used for resurrection purposes, but it's still a Karma Seal that is an essence of the Otsutsuki that also played a role in manipulating these awakened Shinju. When you add all these things into the toolkit, that is why someone like Jura is just leaps and bounds above everything else. He is an absolute monster. He is more evolved, and he is more of a sentient being than any of the other Shinju. He's evolving at a much greater rate, which makes sense. He is the main body of the Ten Tails. No amount of flashy power that Kawaki has means much if your opponent is able to see through the strategy. Let me say that again for the leftover Naruto fans who think big fancy explosions in jutsu are able to bring down someone like Jura. Hence we have these idiots that say that Jubi Obito and Itachi can beat Jura. Jura hits them one time with the back of his book, and he knocks Ninja HIV back into Itachi, and he knocks the emo and pedophile out of Obito. It's over. Jura has already proven that he adapts faster than expected. Even Kawaki's Kokugan and his Daikokuden abilities with the chakra rods and the disruption cubes, they have limitations. Yes, those cubes, they can block sensory tracking, but Jura is already operating on instincts, and he's going to find a way around those chakra cubes. And if you're physically strong enough, you can throw them out the way. Baryon Mode Naruto proved that. The other thing with shrinking down to 1 inch in size, as we saw when Jigen fought against Naruto and Sasuke, there are limitations to what you're able to do when you are shrink down. Someone like Jura would be able to pick up on any limitations Kawaki has when shrunk down to 1 inch in size. This isn't a stomp in Kawaki's favor. Instead, this should be viewed more so as a calculated risk. If you're in the Naruto universe right now, you would bet on Kawaki being able to do relatively well against Jura, which brings me to why this is basically the best case scenario, a tactical retreat scenario. So can Kawaki win? Not in the traditional sense. If you think win means that your opponent stops breathing, yeah, that's not going to happen. But can he force Jura into a retreat? Well, the key here is that Jura's not a berserker. He is strategic. If he senses that Kawaki's abilities make him a long-term threat, Jura may choose to retreat to think about his next move. It's a tactic we've seen from other high-level villains that we've had in Naruto's manga, and it is something that Jura has shown that he has the capability to do. Remove himself from a situation and rethink how the chessboards change. Kawaki's Karma Seal and his Kokugan, it allows him to attack from multiple different angles. The Kokugan lets him set ambushes using shrunken chakra rods and cubes, returning them to the size when Jura least expects it. He could trap Jura in a scenario where he's forced to waste energy, or better yet, confuse him just long enough for the other shinobi that have the Thorn Soul bulbs to fully get away and escape. If Jura's goal is to conserve any power, or to target someone like Himawari, or if it's to get his hands on the Thorn Soul bulbs after killing Boruto and Kawaki, if he decides that Kawaki's too much of a threat, it makes a beeline for those other Thorn Soul bulbs. If the others are able to get away because Kawaki bought time, it may make more sense to do a tactical retreat because he's lost on multiple levels. That in of itself is a victory for Kawaki. It's a strategic moral victory, and there should be something to be said about that. And it's something that, unfortunately, too many fans from what I've seen, when they see a character doesn't win a fight outright, they say that the character's been nerfed. This is a situation where people throw the word nerfed around way too much, hence I make fun of it in so many titles and thumbnails because I think it's absolute hogwash. So this brings me to the next point, which is the need for Boruto and Kawaki to ultimately unite. So let me restate this for those who haven't gotten it just yet. Kawaki alone is not going to kill Jura. It's going to take Kawaki and Boruto working together. Two boys who both have the Karma Seal, but they are walking opposite paths. It's likely going to be Karma Resonance, like I talked about in another video that I uploaded last month. The reason why is that Boruto brings a raw precision and teleportation ability, and he also has some of that uncanny flair that we associate with Naruto. Not a one-to-one uncanny streak, but Boruto does have some rather creative ways when it comes to fighting. Then you have Kawaki, who brings that ruthless aggression, that anti-sensory warfare, and the no moral hesitation. Both are two sides of the same coin. Both are going to be needed to take down someone like Jura, who is continuously evolving mentally. Jura is a representation, in my opinion, thematically, of nature corrupted by the Otsutsuki. And he is also someone who is too adaptable for solo fighters. He is a nature corrupted by Otsutsuki because of the Karma Seal. The Karma Seal co-possesses comes from the Otsutsuki. Just want to clarify that, because otherwise I have someone in the comment section say I didn't understand that part. So together, they might be able to bridge the gap between their worlds and destroy Jura in this scenario. Their cooperation will be a true moment where the future is reclaimed from the past. Albeit, I don't think that it's happening in this arc. I think that it happens later on. Though it should be worth noting, Jura has been a primary antagonist for roughly 20 chapters now. To put that into perspective, that's making him the primary antagonist almost as long as Jigen and Ishiki were. That speaks volumes, because they were primary antagonists in the story longer than anyone else. I'm not counting Momoshiki as a primary antagonist, because he was laying dormant for a long time. And that brings me to the Issun Boshi parallel and the symbolism, because I think that there's something interesting here when you look at this part. So this brings it full circle, because Kawaki's eye is the Kokugan. It has the abilities that are very similar to the Issun Boshi story, the one-inch samurai, or the one-inch man, depending on the translation you get of the folklore. So in this Japanese folklore, a boy the size of a thumb becomes a warrior by wielding a sewing needle as a sword. Basically, think of that like chakra rods. Though he is tiny, he uses wit, timing, and courage to defeat multiple demons, proving that size means nothing if your spirit is mighty. Does that sound familiar? It should. Jigen was able to destroy Naruto and Sasuke's chakra avatars. He was witty and he was mighty. Kawaki, with this Kokugan, literally channels Issun Boshi's symbolism. He's able to shrink and he's able to fight those who have enormous power. That's the metaphor. Like Issun Boshi, Kawaki doesn't need to destroy Jura to win. He just needs to show that even a small Otsutsuki with willpower and intellect can force a giant, in this case being Jura, who's absolutely tall as hell, to be able to retreat. That's poetic storytelling if you know the Japanese storytelling that this draws inspiration from. It's why Kawaki fleeing Jura, it's why Kawaki making Jura flee isn't just a tactical milestone, it's also poetic narrative justice. It proves that Kawaki is no longer just a tool, not like Momoshiki said, where he said he was a tool destined to be used by others. He's now a one-inch warrior who is slowly carving out his own legend. So can Kawaki defeat Jura? Not yet, but let's be clear. He can bloody the giant's nose in this scenario and force him to reconsider his plans. It does make you wonder though, does Kawaki have more upgrades from Amado besides Ishiki's attack power? Could Jura be forced to show his full power in a battle against Kawaki, or will that be reserved for Boruto and Kawaki? Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking here on the left to check out more Naruto Explained videos, or click here on the right to check out videos from my other two anime channels where I talk about non-Naruto content.